the facts just don't bear that out, like, at all. So why not just be honest with Canadians about it?
Actually, I do not agree with your frame.
Your government in the election promised to make us the most powerful economy, the strongest economy in the G7. You're the ones who set that expectation, not people who are asking questions of you.
Exactly.
Vassy put on a masterclass interview with Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand and straight up called out the liberal lies and BS that they promised. The best part about this entire interview is that Vassy doesn't take answers with no elaboration or deliberate platitudes that only confuse people. She actually defends Canadians who are losing their jobs, calls out the liberal elbows down stance against Trump, and much more. It's bad for Anita. I mean bad. She gets defensive, passive aggressive, and you can even hear the nervousness and anger behind your voice while it's literally trembling.
From multilateral trade relationships.
If you enjoy seeing liberals melt like soy-based ice cream, hit the like button down below.
Politico wrote this morning that after being in the room for Donald Trump's speech to the UN last night, that you recast the speech that you delivered this morning, which happened just minutes after Donald Trump announced yet another big round of tariffs. This time, 100%, he says, on movies made outside of the United States. Do you know how that will impact Canada?
Well, first, I just want to correct the record. I have been writing this speech for a number of weeks, and it is a speech that I drafted on my own. So I'm not sure the source of that particular point in this morning's article that you referred to. One of the points in the speech that I made at the UN General Assembly today is, in fact, about our economic resilience at home.
Your opposition at this moment in time says that you're essentially conveying something that isn't true. That in Indonesia's case, for example, that deal was actually arrived at in November of 2024, before this prime minister took office. That in Mexico, there's not anything really tangible besides an agreement saying that you want to work together more. That even in Europe, CETA is largely in place, and that there's no sort of proof of what those expanded relationships will actually mean for Canadians. Can you respond to that criticism that basically you're advertising something that isn't fully actually provable?
Actually, they're grasping at straws. Canada is the only G7 country that has a free trade agreement with every other G7 country. We have strong trade relationships. What we are doing is enhancing already existing strong trade relationships by making sure that we're leveraging our international relationships. Work, of course, has been ongoing, but in this moment of time, what you are seeing from Prime Minister Mark Carney and our broader team is that we are doubling down on the efforts to expand our trade relationships, and that is what you will continue to see. Economic relationships among countries are complex. Canada is on a good footing, and we are enhancing our trade agreements, our economic relationships right across the board.
What, with respect, though, Minister, will those enhancements tangibly mean for Canadians? I understand the strategy imperative behind it. I think strategic imperative, I think most Canadians do, right? We have become so reliant on the United States that we have to look to become less reliant. But how soon will those efforts bear fruit for Canadians who are looking at a second quarter contraction of the economy to the tune of 1.6%? The closest country in the G7 that even, comes anywhere near that is Germany at a contraction of 0.3%. Like, we are faring worse than other countries right now.
Actually, Vassy, what you need to do in building a strong foundation and diversified trade relationships is continue to pursue those relationships, not retreat. Canada, as I said in my speech this morning, is a multilateral trading partner with many other countries. We are going to ensure that those trade agreements benefit Canadian businesses and Canadian workers. Canada will work to further enhance our leadership on the world stage as other countries retreat towards greater protectionism.
Is your government, though, being honest with Canadians about the degree to which that notion and those values and those endeavors that you just explained will actually supplant our economic relationship with the United States? To give your previous government credit, you signed a number of significant free trade deals with different regions of the world that came into effect during that 10-year period, and we still remained trading partners with the United States to the tune of 3/4 of all of our exports consistently through that decade heading to one single location. So when you talk about enhancing the relationships, like, the Prime Minister often says, like, we can give ourselves what others don't, implying that we'll be able to supplant what we lose with the United States. But the facts just don't bear that out, like, at all. So why not just be honest with Canadians about it?
Actually, I do not agree with your frame. This is being honest with Canadians in the sense that we have a trading relationship with the United States where 75 to 80% of current trade is covered under that agreement. When we talk about the sectors that are not covered, our government will, A, support those sectors as we have with steel and aluminum, for example, as we have with the auto sector, for example, and we will also work to diversify our trading relationships so that there is even greater opportunity for Canadian firms and Canadian workers to benefit from multilateral trade relationships. And I want to stress that changing the composition of a trading relationship does not occur overnight. We have work to do to ensure that we're leveraging the free trade agreements that we have signed. Again, the only G7 country that has such extensive trade agreements across the board. And we'll work to ensure that Canadian businesses are cognizant of those trade relationships that already exist.
What should we as Canadians, I guess, interpret from the fact that your government is not anywhere close to matching the tariffs that are in place from the United States, that you've made a cognizant decision not to, hit back in a commensurate fashion, and as the opposition would accuse, be elbows down now?
Well, Vassy, you're kind of overlooking the point that I made just a second ago, which is that 75% to 80% of our trade is already still occurring under the North American Free Trade Agreement. The second point I want to say, and that in answer to your question, is yes, I do. I do believe that we will continue to be able to enhance our trade relationships with new partners, and we will be able over time to further diversify the Canadian economy.
We spoke with Michael Kovrig the other day, who reminded me back in 2018 when China leveraged a whole suite of tariffs on canola. The lesson to the government at the time was supposed to be to diversify markets, and instead, as a country, we just drilled down on the Chinese market, which I think informs another challenge to your government, which is that is an example of when the lesson was not heeded. And you're telling Canadians they should just trust you on face value now, and that this government, just because there's a different prime minister, will heed that lesson and be able to diversify. I'm not overlooking the fact that you put forward. I'm offering a challenge based on the history of the Liberals over the last 10 years who have not been able to capitalize on those agreements and fully diversify markets.
Well, I appreciate that you're skeptical, Vassy, but when we're in these positions of leadership, we have to lead. And the key point is that in times of economic stress, we need to ensure that we're doing everything we can to benefit the Canadian economy and the Canadian workforce. And that's exactly why our diplomacy will be tied to the benefits that it can provide here at home. Again, Vassy, you seem to want to have a solution overnight. What I am saying is that this takes time, but we are not letting our foot off the gas in terms of ensuring that at every turn we are advancing Canada's economic interests and Canada's leadership in multilateral fora so that we are not only benefiting the Canadian economy, but we're contributing to the growth of the global economy as well.
With respect, I certainly don't think that something can happen overnight. I think there are 80,000 people in Canada who have lost their job over the last 6 months who are hopeful that this isn't sustained. And I think that, your government in the election promised to make us the most powerful economy, the strongest economy in the G7. Yes. You're the ones who set that expectation, not people who are asking questions of you.
Exactly. And the election was on April 28th, and we are here now in mid-September, and we will continue, or late September, and we will continue to ensure that there are markers of the success.
I'm wondering how much longer Vassy is going to have with CTV. Man, I don't know. She doesn't seem to be following their narrative. Oh, you know the one. Remember we have the best trade deal with the US, or they're new in government, so give them a chance, and so on. There's plenty of other journalists out there who just run cover for the liberals. But this duo of Vassy Kapelos and Mike Couture, they've been breaths of fresh air. But I shouldn't even be praising them, really. Should I? I mean, to be honest, they're just doing their job. Isn't that what their job entails? To ask questions that challenge the person you're talking to? Not softball questions like David Cockring and Rosemary Farton always throw out. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you comment down below and share your thoughts. You guys have been making me laugh so hard at that Scott Reed video with some totally out-of-pocket comments, and I absolutely love it.